Hi everyone, Mike Moo here. This is one of the more anticipated products that I've been looking forward to upon when they had released their Obsbot tail. Now I did a video on the first generation of this, and this is their second generation. So what it is an AI-powered 4K streaming camera. Now it says PTZ, but I don't consider this a true PTZ because it is digital zoom. What this will do for you, and above what the previous version was, is that this will help you track subjects. Now that might not be anything new for some of you. There are definitely other products out there that track subjects, and this basically will rotate up to 300 degrees out of the box and follow you, the subject, with AI technology. Now, it is on Kickstarter right now. I have an affiliate link. Other than that, I have no affiliation with the company. And if you are interested in this, please use my link. It's very prominently there on the screen. Now, there are still super early bird kits available. If you are interested in an AI-powered streaming camera with 4K capability, this is probably one of the best options, if not the best option, available in its price range. In its price range, meaning that it is what I would consider affordable. This is not a true professional camera, though. What they did was they took a decent 4K sensor that is pretty much the size of a decent webcam, and they added a bunch of AI capabilities to it. You have a 4 times digital zoom. It has a 23 millimeter wide viewing angle, so it's really good for close-up stuff. If you want to stream in 4K close-up stuff, you're going to look into a wired solution, which this does support, so it's NDI. Let me go ahead and play the video here, and I'll stop and pause and do some commentary about it. But if any of this sounds interesting to you at all, and you are a streamer, like you do live streams all the time, or if you need to do a multicam setup, let's say like if you were a video podcasting, all right? Some other use cases would be, for instance, if you live stream every Sunday at church or certain events and it's decently well lit, and you can have the cameras up pretty up close, you're going to want to really consider this. And they actually have a 3-pack available as well. It's called the Multicam Kit. It looks like now it is only a early bird special. The super early bird was gone, so I guess you could have saved $200 there. Sometimes these do open up a little bit later. So you're not too late to the game yet. There's still some super early bird deals available. So let me play this campaign video, and I'll give you some feedback on what I found out about it and what I think, having some experience with Obsbot Tail, the first version.
Still struggling with messy devices for live streaming? Introducing the Obsbot Tail Amp. Portable and can be placed at any place you want. Capture every moment up to 4K resolution at 30 frames per second.
So this is an example of where it would work out pretty well. If you don't have a camera person and you don't mind just capturing from one view, this will work okay. Now, the way he's working at it, though, and as he's moving, keep in mind that it is zooming in. So the final output of what you're expecting from this would be a digital zoomed from a 4K image that is wide. So the head does not necessarily need to move too much. So we'll continue to see what we have going on here. Keep in mind that the video, of course, that is showing here is not in 4K because it is only outputting pretty much in 1080p.
Use gesture control to activate AI auto tracking feature. With the activated AI tracking feature, the camera would keep following you.
Now, we've seen other cameras that can do this in terms of human tracking and people tracking by some other famous name brand companies. But this will actually move the head with a camera lens, obviously.
Your cute pet, and even an object.
Now, I've tested it fairly extensively as far as human tracking because that's pretty much all I wanted to do, and with just one subject. Now, the manufacturers of this new version, Obsbot, let's just call it Obsbot, has said that it is actually better at tracking. That kind of remains to be seen. There's not a whole lot of footage out there right now that really gives it a challenge in terms of tracking. I will say this, though, if you are wanting to track a basketball game, you want to track where the ball goes, it's not going to be able to do that. It just can't. Especially, think about this, it's 23 millimeters, 4K. It's going to be zooming in trying to track. It's not quite there. In fact, really not much of anything's there except for really pro quality stuff, which we're talking about orders of magnitudes way more expensive than this product. This is really much like a prosumer product, not a professional product. With that said, a lot of professionals do use prosumer class products. Everything is really well lit. There's only two subjects here, at least two people here, and there's really only a handful of subjects. It's really clean. It's really colorful enough for it to track, so it's not going to have any issues with a scenario like this.
Now, let's go beyond and see more amazing features. Wirelessly control, monitor, and stream your live shows. Enter the amazing AI Director grids, constituted by several visible grids, so you can see the different views of your live.
This option is really cool. Okay, the AI Director grids, we have seen this in other products. This is not exclusive. And the other one that comes to mind immediately is the Mevo, which actually got purchased by Logitech. So this would be like that. This would be like a Mevo, but with AI head tracking, PTZ, digital PTZ anyways. So this is also PTZ, digital PTZ, as you can see. And you will notice, of course, that they don't use any audio from the footage because any professional is not going to use any of the audio that comes out from the device. Although I am told that the quality of the audio has been quite improved, which is not very hard to do because the audio quality of the first one, quite frankly, was bad. Even the input was bad.
Click the grid you need to put it on air accordingly.
Obviously, this footage right here from this angle, this is not from the unit itself. This is a third-party angle, probably with a high-end camera, so it looks really great. But the other stuff, yeah, that could be the best. This is going to be the best case scenario that you can hope to expect as far as quality, which is really decent given how much this product is. So if you're well lit, you see how close the camera is, you're well lit, and you have the camera really close up to you, it's going to work out well for you.
Let's dive into the deeper usage of Obsbot Tail Air.
Obviously, none of this is Obsbot tail footage. Obviously, they're just using a professional camera to record these bits here. Now, this is an optional accessory. It's not included in the base package. It is a remote control. I believe it connects via Bluetooth, but it could also be infrared. I'm not sure. Maybe it's a combination. We have combination remotes, but it will control only up to 3 cameras, 1, 2, and 3. But it has all the functionality that you would expect, and it does look like really nice remote control. So if you were going to get this package, while you can control in more minute detail on your smartphone, it is advised that you add this camera remote. Right, not even if you only have a 3 settings, like a 3 camera setup. If you just have 1 camera setup, you should probably add it too. It's just going to be a lot easier to have tactile buttons when you're trying to stream live.
Multi-set up your tail air at different angles. Then you can activate the dazzling and efficient NDI connection. You'll be able to have an incredible live stream experience even at long distance. Supervise the video image in real time, in low latency. You won't miss any dazzling movements with Tail Air's multicam solution. Activate AI auto tracking feature to take a closer look and keep following the target. With a specially designed smart remote, you can.
Now, I want you to pay attention to how this is set up. This is pretty much the most ideal setup that you can think of. And you really have to have the cameras really up close.
Wirelessly control and switch the PTZ and switch among tail air.
Any time that you're going to be using the digital zoom is going to really reduce the quality of the footage that you get out of it.
Light shooting of tail air stepped in a next level by the enlarged pixel size, and the image could be clearer and less noise.
We'll go over the specifications a little bit later. They put all the specifications at the bottom of the page. Just so you know, again, these are small sensors. All right, small sensors capable of capturing 4K. Now, I would like to say that it's a Sony sensor, but they actually don't mention it all. So it could be just a lower class of a Sony sensor. But nowhere do they say anything that it is a Sony sensor, because they reserve the right to, before manufacturing, potentially change to a different sensor, and they don't want to put in your mind that it's a Sony sensor. But most of these sensors are, in fact, Sony sensors. Okay, this part right here where it's zooming out, they don't say it, but you can see clearly that when it's zooming out, this is not something that the Obsbot is doing. This is actually on a physical slider, and that retains the highest quality you can get without digital zooming, because this is definitely on a slider. Okay. Let's be very clear about that. This whole subtle section makes it look like you are really sliding, but you're like in the camera, but you're not. It's actually a slider. Okay, so keep that in mind. You're not going to get the same results just with the 3 cameras. This guy set up the slider. I know it looked like he threw away the backpack and all that stuff, but no. This has a lot of studio equipment going on in here. But it does go to show you the power that you can get from here, from this. All right, so they're going to go over various connection options. This right here, I believe, is a micro HDMI. This is a micro SD. And you cannot record on locally 4K on here and also stream in 4K. It's one or the other. You do 4K on this, then you can only stream in 1080. If you stream in 4K and you want a local recording, it will not record in 4K. All right, and then here's USB-C over here. Over here is the same light as the previous Obsbot. It gives you details about what's going on with the unit. I believe the infrared sensor is also over here, and this is the general multi-purpose button. I believe it only has one button anyhow. Here we go. Here's a little bit closer look up here. Micro HDMI output is right there. They plug that in right there. I believe it comes with every package, but it's just basically a micro HDMI. So you can output that to an adapter to a full HDMI thing, and then you can then use this with a switch or something. Like the A10 Mini, see, like the A10 Mini right here, plug that into the HDMI. Now, what I am not sure of, I guess we'll get more details about that. I'm not sure about a couple things, so we'll go over some of that. So power over Ethernet output is great because you want that with the NDI. So you can, NDI basically is an interface standard that allows you to output video over Ethernet. And that's really the best way to connect all these things up. It's really not to use HDMI, but to connect over power over Ethernet and then go into your live switch. So it does that. And the license key apparently is included in all the packages, which is great. So here is the Ethernet adapter. And you're going to want that if you definitely are going to be doing NDI, because this is a gigabit Ethernet interface that is supported with power over Ethernet. So you can power the camera itself as well as send signals, as long as you have a switch that has power over Ethernet or to pass that out. And then you have USB-C plug here for the power, because you're going to be using up the USB-C port for this thing. There's only one USB-C port, just so you know. You still have this one. This one's really close. This one here is on a slider, which did that nice sliding shot, potentially. And that's just going to provide the best view from it. And then the shot here that's coming back out, I believe that's just a separate third-party pro camera. It's just not the one you're thinking. In a scenario like this, where you're sitting right in front of it, notice how well lit she is. There are a lot of studio cameras, studio lights around here to get her this well lit. And you got the nice hair light also in the back. So this is otherwise not going to look great because obviously it's in the nighttime, so it wouldn't otherwise look great. But you want to be about this close. And I guess potentially for a live stream, this might be okay. But she'll probably also want to wear a wireless microphone and use the 3.5 input on here. So you're still going to have to carry some gear, right? Keep that in mind. Now, there's supposed to be a 6-axis gimbal type stabilizer. And I've seen some footage of it. It's not as good as complete digital image stabilization capabilities of something like a Micro Four Thirds camera or GoPro. It's just not quite there. But you really have the flexibility of the head that will follow you. And that's the main key. So I would not use this as an A cam. Maybe a B cam. And maybe for certain special circumstances, such as this. If you are riding around like this. Now, I've been doing a lot of biking videos, and yeah, there's going to be some use cases for this as far as it following me around, but I'm pretty much going to be in an area where I'm going to have to circle around the camera in order to get decent enough footage as far as that is concerned. So there you have it. That's the Obsbot Tail Air. It's the latest version. I really wish that they added the optical in there. And I really wish they added HDMI back to the original one, because that was one of the main things that was missing. As you can see, up to 4K 30 frames per second, 1080p at 60 frames per second. It has these 3 types of auto AI tracking to some extent. Has Wi-Fi and Ethernet connection. I'd be very careful with the Wi-Fi connection. I would say that if you're doing NDI, you would probably want to do Ethernet connection for the best possible, or just record locally, or record onto the micro SD. And I do believe it is capable at least 256 gigabytes. So yes, this is really small. I wish it would. What would be funny is that, hey, they've probably heard about all this. So this is the first version you're going to have. And the next one they're going to have is called the Obsbot Tail Pro, which would make sense. This is one of those things where you get the funding, you sell a bunch of these so that you can produce the Pro version. Maybe. Most of their products tend to be under the more affordable price range. They haven't quite moved into the Pro category. Not saying that they won't. I'm just saying that this is where they're at. They have produced some pretty nice AI technology tracking webcams, which I have seen, but I have not actually used myself. Of course, this is really small, so imagine the picture quality is not going to be super. You're going to want to be as close as possible, and it does not have optical zoom. So again, I just want to point that out. That is a big one, all right? Particularly in low light situations, when you're using the digital zoom, it's not going to be pretty, depending on how far away your camera is. Okay. Smart remote controller or motion control. That could be interesting. That's one thing that I did not consider. In a case like that, there would probably be Bluetooth connected. The computer application is coming soon. Since they put it on here, I believe obviously they're working on it, so it's not released yet. And I heard and I saw on other YouTubers that the Apple version of the app is not available yet. Keep that in mind. 2.5 hours of shooting time. That's probably in ideal situations and using the most basic of settings. Obviously, this will vary. I think on my other one, I got an hour of shooting time, and that's with the first version. That's with the settings that I was using. And of course, there's always going to be battery degradation over time too. So as AI auto framing and preset positions. Most of us will probably be using preset positions. But the auto AI framing, I was told, will allow you to put the subject in different parts of the screen. So it's going to be a little bit smarter than that. Here you go. You can see like a taller Coke bottle as compared to how small this guy is going to be. So yes, I can see this is going to be great for content creation. It's going to be great for live shows. It's going to be great for House of Worship. It's going to be decent for interviews, maybe. As long as you're up close and you don't mind zooming in a little bit, because the 23 millimeter is wide. But if it's just a wide angle shot of the two of them, I don't see why that's going to be any problem. But if you are using the AI for tracking a person in a sitting situation like that, I think it could be a little bit annoying. Multicam setup, it's going to be great. And equestrian, obviously, they've been testing this with following a big object, such as a person on a horse. And obviously, it's going to do well with that. So it's got some built-in live streaming capability. The main one most people are probably interested in is all going to be connected here. But you got RTMP, so you can use it with just about anything as long as the output's that way. So it's got the micro HDMI output, RTSP streaming protocol, so you can stream probably direct, maybe not directly. Maybe you got to connect it through the app first. And then so it'll probably connect directly from the Obsbot tail air to your phone, and then from the phone then out. But I could be wrong. They don't mention that here. Maybe we should look a little bit more details if that matters to you. I know that I probably wouldn't be doing that, because I have definitely seen, unless you're going to be doing a wired connection, the stream quality probably isn't going to be that great for most people, unless you really don't have a lot of Wi-Fi going on, like a lot of interrupting Wi-Fi signals. It's got UVC. It's controllable via all this. This is great because none of this was available on the first one. And you know what? I haven't powered on my first one in a while, so I really don't know if there's any new firmware that supports this, but my guess is no. They're not adding any of these features on here. In fact, on the first one, and another negative is that they said that they were going to support HDMI, but it really didn't happen. They're saving it for this new one, which is what this one is a replacement. Now, I recommend watching this guy's channel. Not this video necessarily, but he's been producing. I had some questions about the quality, and they definitely show you some of the issues with the tracking, and he does provide the live footage on here, and he is actively checking it out. Now, these other two are in different languages, so they didn't really help me too much, but definitely this guy. Check out his channel.
All the things are
let me pause that. Jason Hoffman, that's it. Jason Hoffman has some other footage and videos that he is producing to give you some examples of that. And I believe also another one too. I'm going to have a link down below. So they have some setup cases here. So the worship setup case on how that stuff all works out. It's good to know. And there is a podcast setup as well. I don't think the laser focus is going to be as good as it sounds. I don't really know what that is, but I saw some sample stuff. And when you're zooming in with such a small sensor, it can only do so much in terms of the focusing. So hopefully they tweak this up by the time it is released. But I wouldn't completely claim that the focus is super good or spot on like I would on a current generation Sony camera. Definitely does not compare from what I have seen. I don't have one of these Obsbot tail airs. I did say, look, Obsbot, if you would like to send me a review loaner unit, I'd be happy to put it through some more tests. But they've already selected the ones that they were going to choose. And let's face it, I'm not big enough. I only have 12K roughly subscribers. So it has a 1/1.8 inch ultra sensitive CMOS sensor, which this makes it look really big, but it is really small. Keep in mind, this whole thing itself is small. It's an 8 lens setup with an f1.8 lens, which by all accounts looks decent, looks more than sufficient for what you need it to do. And obviously in bright light, it's going to capture just fine. And this is a perfect example of what you can expect. It doesn't quite zoom close enough for what I would like. You see how far that away that is? Zooming in isn't going to do you much favors in terms of quality if the light conditions were not better. I wish they would show you a second clip of him doing a similar thing, but then having it automatically zoom in. That's where the first version does a better job. So bigger sensor size to claim, of course, because it's a 1/1.8, which is still a tiny sensor, like a tiny, teeny tiny sensor. So this is not going to be comparable to any of the ones that they're going to compare it later with the professional class PTZ. You'll see that it doesn't really quite compare. Now, the example here, which you can see here, the example here, though, is not zooming in at all. This is straight up the full sensor. This is straight up the entirety of the sensor. And even at that, it's only outputting in 1080p. So that's going to be the best quality you can get. It's going to be a downsampled 4K image close up. That's just the best quality that you're going to be able to get. So again, this is not something you're going to want to zoom. I don't know what this deal is here. It says it does the infrared laser to focus, but the infrared may not go far enough. But it is definitely a welcome addition because in low light, whereas without the infrared laser, probably won't be able to focus at all. So this is supposed to help. I don't know what the effective range is, but obviously it's going to depend on lighting conditions. Again, you're going to want to have this close to you as possible, or close to the subject as possible without hopefully distorting your face or what you're shooting too much. Again, this is a 23 millimeter equivalent, which is a fairly wide angle. It's good in such that at 23 millimeters, actually, if I'm holding out at arm's length, it's going to be appropriate, let's say, for vlogging. But I just still can't see myself using this as far as vlogging. Now, here is the human tracking example, and it will do really well. I've done some tests of this myself with the first version, so I can imagine they have improved it in the second version. But you can move the composition lines to adjust where you're going to be on the screen, which is definitely an improvement. It's not something that was available. The best shots are not necessarily with the subject directly in the middle. So being able to move them over to the side a little bit is going to be helpful. As far as how much, hopefully they don't limit it too much. This is good for tracking, it looks like, animals. This is obviously zoomed in quite a bit. This is tracking some broccoli. And that's a scenario that might be okay. It's still not a substitute for a real camera person. I guess that's one of the things that just needs to be said. This does not replace a real camera person. At least not a real competent camera person. But if you don't have one, you don't have someone to hold the camera for you and to shift it over, this is something. And for the price, it's fairly reasonable for what it can do. You got the long range tracking. That's really good. It says you can be your own cameraman, which is true to a sense. And then you got the AI video director. This is also available on other competitor products. So that works pretty well. I've used that in the past. However, the quality wasn't great. So if anything, this is, I think the product that I used before came out in, was it 2016? Maybe pretty early. So sensor technologies have improved a bit since then. So this is definitely going to be improvement over my very first one. I believe it was the Mevo. So you got new gesture control settings here. Honestly, I really never remember what these things are. So these are almost practically useless to me, at least for someone like me. Multi-connection support. They actually have a nice video. It shows you how the NDI thing works. It's right here, this video right here. So you're going to need a lot of gear to set something like this up, though. Keep that in mind. Just keep that in mind. P over E Ethernet. And then you got the wireless setting that you can connect with mobile, connect with the remote controller. I suggest you get the remote controller. And unfortunately, with the connecting with the computers, directly, it isn't going to be available yet. It says it's coming later in 2023, which has to mean obviously this last fourth quarter. I really hope they get this one down because I'm one of those people who's going to be connecting with the computers. Okay, maybe the Switch and then the computers. Probably not so much the NDI, but we'll see. So what I did was I personally backed just one camera. I thought about getting multiple cameras. And this is an unfair comparison. These PTZ cameras are real PTZ cameras. They actually have optical zoom in there. And they're definitely more capable. But is it 8 times better? Yeah, actually, in certain circumstances, yes. 9 times better than what you get over here. Yes, absolutely. For the professional, you get the $9,000 option. All right, there's no question that you're not going to do the $1,099 option because it's not going to be reliable enough for you. It's not going to have the quality the clients expect. And the versatility and the minute control that you can get with a PTZ keyboard is going to be far in excess of what you can do with this. But is it 9 times better? Again, it depends. If you're doing this professionally and you're getting paid a lot of money for it, you're not going to be doing this. This is going to be more for the casual thing or thing where they have a really low budget. I just can't stress that enough. If you're trying to record a once in a lifetime thing, I wouldn't trust most of the setup that's in here. Maybe the NDI setup. Maybe the NDI setup with over the Ethernet, and you get all the gear that was explained to you on the previous video. But these won't be your exclusive cameras. You're still going to have an A cam, and these are going to be the other cameras in there. Okay. Most of those people are going to be using this. Okay. Professional, this is not for you. Just say that again. Professional, this is not for you. Prosumer, amateur, like me, yes, it's budget friendly. The kit for $600, I mean, you can't get pro gear for $600. That might just give you like an accessory to the camera, to the PTZ camera. Just keep that in mind. All right. They got some accessories. They have ND filters, which is great. They have this little base here that will give you up to 7 hours of use. All right. And you got the remote control, which is great. This actually looks like a really good professional remote control. So this gives you a full 360-degree rotation. Now, I don't know why they didn't bother putting this, but the unit itself will support up to 300 degrees. And I know this because it was one of those questions in the comments area. Or the frequently asked questions, I'm not sure. You got the ND filters, which is nice. So the kit I got was this power-up kit. It runs maybe about $600, plus you got to pay for shipping as well. And as you can see, there's 16 left of them available. Look, there's a chest mount. Never tried one of these. I don't know if I ever would. But this is decent here, at least for the United States. Keep in mind this will ship over from China, maybe Hong Kong, which is obviously a part of China. But if you get anything more than the $800 price range, you're going to be responsible for customs here in the United States. It makes sense for me to try one first. And if it works out better, then I can add one later. And also, if you do get one of these later kits after the whole campaign is closed, you also have the option to add more stuff in add-ons later. So keep that in mind. You can back one thing first and do more add-ons later. But if you want the best deal, obviously you're going to want to get the kit with most of the stuff and then add more of them on later. Oh, where's the details? They plan on starting shipment in November. Would not surprise me if it doesn't make it by Christmas. That's just the way things are. Here is the specifications that a lot of people were wondering about. It's way down here in the bottom. So you got the size, the weight, everything here. It is actually a 2-axis gimbal. I don't know what I was saying. It was a six-axis gyroscope was what I really meant to say. So obviously it's a 2-axis only gimbal this way. So 2 axes. You got a little bit of jitter there. The pan and tilt range is important to know. And the mechanical range. CMOS sensor, the pixel size, Electronic is 1/8,000 seconds. The effective pixels is just enough for 4K. And here's the actual pixel resolution. ISO range of 100 to 6400. Probably looks terrible in 6400 range. So keep that in mind. These are really small sensors. If you have an Obsbot recent webcam that's 4K, take a look at the quality. It's probably going to be very similar to that. But there are other videos that they promised. There's actually a Facebook group you can check out. I also have links for those down in the description where a lot of people ask a bunch of questions. It's just a very popular thing now to do is to open up a Facebook group for a new product launch so that they can provide additional support rather than just go through Kickstarter. Now, there are, of course, going to be a bunch of questions and comments that you can do over here, and they will answer some of them. But I have seen enough to know that this is obviously not a pro solution. If you're thinking about a pro solution because they compared it with an $8,000, $9,000, $10,000 rig, then just keep in mind that this definitely is not. So let me know if you have any questions just besides that. I'm going to be keeping an eye on some of this stuff, and obviously I will be getting one of these with the rest of the others in the campaign. If Obsbot does decide to take me up on my offer to do some trials and videos, most likely they won't because they've already sent out the trial ones out, then I'll also update as well. But some of the creators that they did send these out to, they are uploading new videos daily so far as we speak around the launch. I think I commented on Facebook that they didn't have enough at launch for a lot of people to decide whether or not this is going to work out well for them. So I'm glad that they've at least either the creators that got the demo units have listened. There's at least one of them that has listened and is actually sending out more footage for us to actually see and compare. One final really big concern, and I've mentioned this because I've had issues with the original version, is the audio quality and how far out of sync it got when even recording locally on the micro SD card. And that's why I said, look, if you're going to want to do this, a multicam setup, you're going to want to do straight up the NDI interface, not in the wireless, because the wireless is, most people's wireless systems are insufficient. And if you're going to be doing it on site, that could cause some serious issues. Just keep it wired. It supports the NDI. You're going to have to bring in all that gear that is mentioned in the video, which includes the unit, the adapters, the Ethernet cables, the switch with a PoE. So you're going to want to run cables all around the place like this. So you got these cables everywhere. And like these setups, which they actually show you what's going on. You're going to want to do that. And for that really is just setting up like a whole pro setup, which seems a little silly that you use cheap cameras after the fact for streaming with all this setup. Well, it does have its place. And it's good for the budget. As you can see, you got the FS5 here, which is several $1,000s. You buy multiple sets of triple sets of Obsbot tails with the money that you spend on a Sony FS5. Yeah, see, makes sense. This is just like the extra camera with the PTZ over there on the side. Like if you just want to add a little PTZ on the side and just for certain bits of footage, not for the main footage, this might be just fits in that little niche right there. Tiny little niche. If you are interested in backing, this is right now currently available still on Kickstarter. Please use my link. I would appreciate that, and that would help entice me to make more videos about Kickstarter projects in the future. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you in the next one.